Hey riders, January 31st, 2024. What am I getting up to today? Well, today we got a little video here. We are going to the Highlands of Scotland. Place where there's a lot of really cool rides to do. I've been kind of obsessed and fascinated with the UK top 100 rides. You can find a list online somewhere. I'll actually put a link in the video comments. And what's really cool about this is that it kind of coincides with the events that Rouvy's putting on the, Across Britain stuff. They got a challenge coming up here. Actually, I think it's ongoing now. And it's a bunch of these things. They're in a slightly longer version. And actually looks kind of like a tough challenge to me. But this one's been on the back burner for a little bit. I did this one, maybe I did this on Saturday. I think so. I went out with some ghosties. Again here, look who's with me. It's Emma. Where's the other ghosts? They're all behind me. Emma always seems to be the one sticking out front. I don't know how many times I've said that. Just so you can tell too, I've sped the video up quite a bit. I think I'm at about 160%, so it's going to look pretty quick here. Changing my camera setting here. It was just a little bit too crowded. Beautiful scenery here. Yeah, I see her. I'm messing around with it again. And I'm like, you know what? Get these folks away from me today. I want to ride solo. I'm a lone wolf. So what I did with there was I called the DS up in the van and said, I don't need these folks today, or just keep them away from me. Give me a gel, give me a fresh bottle, and I'm off on my own. So where we are here for this road called the Cairnwell is we are up in the Cairnwell up in Scotland, in the Highlands. And you can see here the terrain is just fantastic. It's just rolly hills everywhere. And I shouldn't say roll hills. I mean, these are like basically mountains. I mean, it would be a good little hike up each one. But that's the beauty of them, is that you can essentially walk up all these things. So as I'm doing this route, I did some research later. And you know what? I might have done this last week. I think I did this last week. So in this part of the world, what they call these things are Munros. Now, they were named Munros after, I believe he was... I guess he was a cartographer or a geographer. I think in the 1890s, his name was Sir Hugh Munro. And he named all the peaks over 3,000 feet tall in Scotland. Look at these stone walls here. I just want to do a little quick shout out here to one of my favorite shows of all time, The Trip, Steve Coogan. Who remembers the part when he says, I would love to do a costume drama in this part. I'd be vaulting over dry stone walls. You just got to watch it. I mean, it's the driest humor of all time. Absolutely love it. So that's a little diversion there for you. These are all called Munros in this area. And so a Munro has to be higher than 3,000 feet in Scotland. They're all quite accessible, which is kind of the appeal of them to me. So if you want to do a Munro, there's a list of them. Sorry, I just got, my brain just went dead there for a second. And there's 282 peaks. Just say big hills in Scotland that are over 3,000 feet tall. And they've all been named. So if you want to do them all, it's called a round, which is also known. So when you do a round, you're also doing something called peak bagging or Munro bagging. Like, all these things are named. You almost need to take a 2 to 3 week long continuing education course to learn about all the naming, the nomenclature behind it, because there's Munros, there's Munro tops. There's another one called Murdos, which I think might be the same as a Munro top. And then from there, we've got the smaller ones. Like, let's say the hills between 2,500 and 3,000 feet. 2,999 feet. It gets another name. I think those are Corbetts. I believe so. And that's named after another person that went and measured all those babies out. Now, the number of Munros has changed over the years. I think way back when Munro actually did this, there was only 277, something like that. And then with better satellite technology, they could pinpoint the accuracy of these climbs a bit better. So in this part of the world, there's tons of Munros to do. I never really thought that this was like mountainous or this would be a scary place to be, but I've seen some fantastic videos online, of course on YouTube. What makes the Munros really cool and kind of really scary at the same time is they're so accessible. And the weather can change very rapidly. So it's one of those things where, let's say you want to go climb a mountain over here. We got a 4-hour drive out there. We got to get park permits. We got to hike our way in to the spot, start the ascent. It's a whole undertaking. But here you could be sitting around in your house on a Sunday afternoon, be like, I'm going to pop up that mountain there. Well, as you're popping up that mountain, a huge weather front moves in, and next thing you know, you're being battered by 60-mile-an-hour winds, rain, potentially sleet and snow. I can see a lot of people getting into trouble on these Munros. Basically any of these hills up here. So there's 282 Munros. Have I even talked about cycling yet? There's 282 Munros in Scotland, and outside of Scotland, Ireland, Wales, and England, they call the 3,000 footers Firths, F-U-R-T-H. And again, and there's only something like, I believe the Firths, I think there's only like 34. So when I saw that number right away, I'm like, wow, it is so hilly in Scotland. I finally get now why they call it the Highlands. In fact, I think there's only 6 3,000 footers in England altogether. I'm just quoting numbers I've read about recently, but it's quite the big deal to do these things. What's crazy is I think there's only been about 7,500 people that have done a full round. And there's a list that you have to kind of check one off. And I think that's what I really like about it. It's that little checklist like, yep, got it. So if you're smart when you do these things, you can do them like you go to a location, go to the car park. I know that's what you like to call it there, the car park. Set your car up, grab your gear, grab your rucksack, whatever, your backpack as we like to call it. And you can bang out 3-4 in a day because even though they're 3,000 footers, you're probably going to climb, 400 or 500 meters, so 12 to 1,500 feet. And once you get to the top of one of the Munros, you're not going to drop all the way back down. That would be foolish. What you're going to do is kind of like walk along a ridge line, drop down probably a few hundred feet, and then pop up to the next one. But I think it's quite an art. It's quite a strategy to doing all this. So yeah, we are riding the Cairnwell here. This is the Cairnwell Pass. This is the modern road, just so you know. We are on our way up to the Glen Shee ski resort. And now I know for a fact here too, one of the challenge routes coming up, I think it's called Glen Shee, goes to this area. It's a longer version of this, so it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. And when I picked this one out, it was called the Cairnwell. That's the name. I had no idea that the Glen Shee route that showed up in the challenges, like I kind of looked through the coming events, what routes are coming, and I saw Glen Shee. That means nothing to me. I know what it's all about now. So further up the road, we're going to bump into the Glen Shee ski resort, which I believe is the oldest ski resort in Scotland. I think it was founded like in 1902. So maybe what you're not aware of here is that over to the right side, there's an old road down there. It's been there for a long time. And when they built this new road, they kind of managed to avoid some of the toughest stuff. So if you look at the profile on the bottom here, you can see in all that orange, the deep, deep orange stuff. This is like the easy way up here. Now, I think the Cairnwell itself might be that peak that's just hiding under the profile up to the left here, right under my 300 watts there. I think that's it right there. And they say that if you're going to do the Cairnwell, the best way to tackle it from is to go to the Glen Shee ski resort and start your hike from there. So even though this is the Cairnwell, we're not on the top of the Cairnwell. It's up above us here. Now a cairn, a C-A-I-R-N, in Canada, that the only reason I know what a cairn is that, up north and for markers, they'll stack a bunch of rocks up. And I think I had a quick check. I think the cairn at the top of the Cairnwell is like over 2,000 years old. It's kind of like been a marker site for people to find their ways down around historically. So anyways, the road down to the right of us has been bypassed many, many years ago due to the fact that it was so steep. So what I'm doing here, folks, is I thought the scenery was so great here. I just wanted to give you like POV totally. Let's get all that me avatar stuff off you. Coming up quickly, you're going to see a little road turn off on the side of the road here. It's going to be on the right-hand side. It might be just a little bit more up the road, I believe. It's probably around this bend. Actually, you can see some cars here on the right-hand side right there. So what's fascinating about this is, and you're going to see a little road approach come back onto the main highway here, if you want to consider this a main highway. Like right here, that little road right there. Okay, let's talk about this for a second. Only in Scotland, coolest names, the Devil's Elbow. So way back when they first built this road, maybe they just wanted to make roads really hard. They didn't want to build easy roads like this. The Devil's Elbow there was a double switchback elbow that probably on the steepest part of the corner that you wouldn't actually drive on was 33% gradient. And so what they used to do back in the 60s, I think they shut that road back down in the 60s, they said, but there were still buses going up here with like people on it. Like people would travel across here all the time. The driver of the bus would make all the people get out on those switchbacks and have to walk up ahead of him, and then he would drive the bus empty up around it because it was so steep that the bus struggled to get around the corners. There's a lot of cool old pictures online that you can find. Something else I found about it too, and they are there. They are these stone or concrete blocks there. Now, what are these concrete blocks for? Why are they here? Someone actually said in another video I watched, they look like tank traps. Well, guess what? They are tank traps. They were put in place there in World War II because there was a fear that German forces might try to make a beach landing on the northeast side of Scotland, where it was very undefended. You got to realize everything that the UK had was down south. You know, probably during the Battle of Britain, everything was pushed south to stop Germany from trying to get across. Because at one point, it was just the UK and allies, Canada, standing up. I guess, you got to throw all the rest in. Like the Commonwealth, the UK and the Commonwealth. I don't want to leave anyone out here, folks. Kind of a World War II fan myself. Fan, does that sound right? History buff, I guess. Maybe that sounds a bit better. But yeah, the UK and the Commonwealth for a while stood alone against Germany. So they had every bit of manpower and equipment on that south coast. So there is a way that the Germans could have snuck around and came blasting right down through here. So there's actually tank traps, like big concrete blocks to stop vehicles from getting through there. You can find that hidden on YouTube. Maybe I'll try to find that link where the guy talks about it, because he actually says, hey, they look like tank traps. Well, they are. So yeah, the Cairnwell here, this is one of the top 100 climbs in the UK. I'm going to add that to my list. It's a great climb. It's nothing really that hard. What are we looking at? It's just under 10 kilometers, 400 meters of climbing or something. Yeah, just over, around 400, say. We're coming up to the steepest part now, though. Even though, like, in the old days, the toughest part was just, it's behind us now, up that double switchback at the Devil's Elbow. And what's really cool is that road is still there. So if you were local to the area, you could ride probably that old road and avoid all the traffic, because traffic doesn't go down that road anymore. Maybe they have blocks off at either end, like basically modern day versions of the tank blocker things, the tank fortifications I was talking about, to keep vehicles from going down them. But the road is still there. You can walk it quite easily, apparently. Yeah, so this whole part of the world with these Munros, I get it now. I get the appeal of it. Doing around. I did some digging online again here too. And so to do a full round, they say on average, takes the average person 8 years. 8 years, you got to think about it. It's 282. So you'd have to do 35 a year. And it's like, that's probably like 35 days out over the summer. Well, when Scotland only, and they like to joke about this is their joke, they only get 3 or 4 days of summer per year. I get it. It might be hard to arrange all those days to go out, unless you don't mind going out in some of the worst weather on the planet. I think it's quite cool up here all the time. I wonder if this part of the world ever sees more than 30 degrees Celsius. I highly doubt it. It's probably occasional, but just a rarity. So yeah, here we are in some of the steep stuff now. What are we, 12, 13% through here? But this is a really cool climb. And, I've said before, I'm not all about the challenges, but it kind of makes me want to look at the challenges more now that I see this one here. So I think with this one, the Glen Shee one, they've just put I think there's a bunch of stuff before this. So it could make it a pretty tough stage. I'd have to look at the profile. What's interesting coming up ahead, I think I can just see it now in the distance where that car's disappearing. There's like I guess it would be like a warning sign maybe, or maybe it's a road closure sign. Because I've seen pictures of this here through here as well. And this road is like just pure ice, pure snow. They probably don't have the best snow removal equipment in this part of the world. So they basically just shut this road right down. I think there's even a gate up here too that they can block the road with, which we have that here too. When the roads are really extreme through the mountain passes, they just get closed down. So yeah, it's coming up here on the left-hand side. There's going to be a big sign here, and it looks like you're looking at the back of like a sign that would be lit up, probably warning people what's going on up ahead. So basically, you know, we're through the worst. Well, we're still at 14% here, but this is a great ride because you got a lot of little false flats. You probably got 7 kilometers of false flat before you actually get to the climb yourself. It's just not a hard climb. It's just a cool climb. Like knowing where you are, all these cool hills to climb around you. You could come up to the Glenshee Resort, ski resort, and, you know, settle in and just go hiking forever up here. As long as the weather's like this looks like a good day for it. As long as the weather's nice, it's probably really enjoyable. But when the clouds roll in, yeah. So yeah, like I said too, the big hills are over 3,000 feet. So we're not even at 3,000 feet here. So we just passed that sign. I believe I saw a gate coming up. Hopefully I see it. Yeah, maybe it's right here. Yeah, you can see a set of gates right here. So these gates would fold right across the road, shutting it down. Like, we don't have the equipment here. So obviously another little lookout point. I believe that one ahead of us too, I think that's another Munro. So you can see they're big. When I think 3,000 feet, I don't think it's big because I live at 3,000 feet. I'm in the foothills of the Rockies, so 3,000 feet doesn't seem high to me, but when you start low, then it's pretty high, right? So just up ahead, you can see, I went back to Avatar mode here. I just wanted to see the finish line coming up. Here's the Glenshee Ski Resort coming up. I guess it's been there forever, and a lot of people use it. So I hope you enjoyed this video on this part of the world. Just wanted to show you some other stuff. I'm going to do a lot more of these fun videos, throw some history in. Colin's ramblings, let's call it, / the fireside chat. So yeah, great ride. Didn't kill myself, 257 watt average. But I had a great time riding this one. You should check it out. Catch you in the next video.